Hi, this is Bill. I'm going to give you another edition of When Work Beats Retirement. Thing I just did recently is really cool, and I'm excited to share it with you. Okay, you've probably seen the Apple commercial where you go from this, which is how our satellite data is measured in the raw, to that. That's the result of assimilating the satellite data and combining it with a meteorological analysis and filling in all the gaps. And so it looks like this. From this to that. Hi, I'm going to preface all these discussions with an assumption that the Earth is round. So if you are a flat earther, then stop listening here because none of this is going to make sense. But if you do believe in a round Earth, it all makes sense. So, as I showed in this video, in this picture here, our orbit tracks, the satellite goes around the Earth, and we got these defined orbit tracks, and that's the only place where we get measurements. So there's all these white spaces or gaps where we don't get measurements. And the other issue is that what you see there is like a day of coverage. So we're making measurements every half a minute. But it's 24 hours worth of measurements. And of course, what we really like is to be able to fill that whole map out and have an equivalent of what the measurement would be maybe every half hour or so. And so this is the power of data assimilation. This is one of the ideas I'd come up with, was to combine our data and use a meteorological analysis, which gives you all the wind information that shows you how the air is being moved around. And so you populate the globe with data as we get it, and then you let the wind move it all around, and so that way you get an estimate of what the field would look like, say at a particular time. Here 12 noon, and this is April 14th. That was my birthday, by the way. And so you fill in all these spatial and time gaps. The assumption here is that there's no chemistry going on the impacted species between the refill times. Now, normally that takes every 5 days for our satellite to cover the longitudes repeatedly. So long as not much chemistry goes on in 5 days, this should work. And so what you do, you're kind of trading time for horizontal coverage and using a physical model to fill it all out. I think this is pretty cool. And yeah, now I'm going to show you an animation here, and this I think is absolutely amazing. I am showing a 2-month animation of microwave limb sounder measurements of N2O in the stratosphere of heights between 15 and 30 kilometers. N2O is a good tracer of atmospheric circulation or winds. What is particularly noteworthy is that the subsystem that measures this is failing, and to conserve life, we can only take measurements 1 week per month, starting in May. So there is a 2-week gap at the beginning in May, followed by 1 week of measurements, and then another week of nothing. So, and you can see the white space here. That's the period we're getting no measurements. Anyway, check out the reconstruction, though, using the data simulation I did. And not only does it show amazing circulation detail, not evident in the raw data, but during the periods where there is no measurements at all, the model goes into forecast mode and fills it in a totally seamless way. So I think this is amazing, and I'm going to present this at our meeting next Tuesday and see if I can get this more widely approved and accepted. So there you have it. Anyway, this is a culmination of an idea I actually had probably like 10, maybe 15 years ago. I wanted to write a proposal for it, but I guess no one was amused, so it didn't happen. And then during the lockdown pandemic, when I was working at home, I thought, okay, let's see. I just decided to work on this, and so I put together the software and code, and I showed some stuff to people, and it looks pretty cool, but I guess no one was terribly amused by it. Even though it's interesting, because people are always interested in taking irregular satellite data. It's coming in at different times and places, and they want to regularize it on a regular time location grid. So, yeah, I guess I've just not been able to sell this one. Well, now this is another application which I think is pretty cool, because we're going to be getting basically 3-week data gaps. And this is a way to fill them out. So I'll be presenting this at the Tuesday meeting and see what people think of it. Now, I do know one legitimate criticism I'm going to get is that unfortunately everything comes in with a pretty big latency of over a month. So, like for example, I can't show June because I don't have the wind data from Goddard, what they call a Mira file. And I need that to do the numerical analysis here. So that will probably come in for June. That is, will come in around the 20th of July. So the people don't like the latency. So yeah, I agree. That's an issue. But anyway, just to give you some perspective here, weather forecasting models actually use the same idea, although in a much more complicated and comprehensive way. I mean, they get all this data in real time for temperature and winds and humidity and ocean reflectivity and all sorts of stuff. And they've got a very complicated physical model, much more complicated than what I have here. And they basically fill out the entire state of the atmosphere, and then they'll run it forward in time when they're getting no satellite data. That's what we call a forecast mode, and then that's what they use for weather forecasting. And right now the technology and I guess understanding of physics and all that is that this stuff's only probably good for about a week or two, when when things just I guess our lack of understanding of physical processes in the atmosphere are such that it just doesn't work too far into the future at this time. So I'm just applying the same idea here. And by the way, I also applied the same idea to my Bitcoin model. So, which is a much simpler idea, but yeah, data simulation is pretty cool, and a lot of people kind of diss work, and they say how wonderful retirement is, and we should be living just to retire, and I'm actually very blessed and thankful that I don't feel that way. I mean, my project is going to come to an end in 2 years. There may be some wind down time after that. And while I have to admit I'm not eager to just totally reinvent myself into a new work environment where you've got a boss breathing down your neck to be super productive, I've kind of got a nice situation where we kind of have a project coming to the end of its life, and there's not a lot of pressure, but you can still do a lot of cool stuff. And one thing I do want to do is I want to make a video of the magnetic field measurement thing I showed earlier. That's pretty fun too. So anyway, so yes, say like and subscribe or whatever. I hope you enjoyed this. And yeah, work is not all bad. Try to find the bright side in it. Anyway, bye-bye.